Hey guys, Jeff Joyner here today on the campus of Cedarville University. Spoke at a conference here a few weeks ago about entrepreneurship and business. Met a couple of sharp young college students here that are leading entrepreneurs on campus, and they invited me to be part of a podcast. Actually, I think a couple of podcasts. And so I came on up here. I'm going to be doing that with these guys today. And then they challenged me to play some pickleball. So we might do some of that tonight too. These young athletic bucks. We'll see how the old timer can do.
So y'all, this is Kingdom Kommerce. We got Aaron Perry, who you guys have seen before. He's founder of Ultralight Running. We got Jeff Joyner here, a wonderful gentleman I met at the Impact Conference in Cedarville. He is an author, speaker, hilarious guy. So we're so happy you spent some time with us today. But Jeff, we were just talking, before this, you have been involved in a lot of speaking events. You have some hot takes. I'm excited to dive into that.
But yeah, we're gonna play some pickleball later. We'll see if I can hang with these young people. This guy's like a professional Ironman runner. I'm sure you guys will let me in pickleball. And then they offered me a faculty position. So I was 22 years old on the faculty of a major university. I went from being a D student to a college instructor in less than a year.
Wow.
And didn't want to do that for a living. What I really wanted was to be in business for myself. Didn't know how to do that. Didn't know anybody. And so long story short, the reason I tell you that is entrepreneurship saved me spiritually. Christian high school, Christian elementary school, Awana. You know what Awana is?
Yes, for sure.
I got the Timothy Award and the Meritorious Award in Awana because I was good at memorizing Bible verses.
Get a piece of candy.
Came to Cedarville, 4 years at Cedarville. Still, none of that led me to a personal relationship with Jesus. I would tell people, I knew God the same way that, if I asked people, hey, do you know Michael Jordan? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, really? You know Michael? Well, I know of him. I knew of God. I knew a lot of God. When I was in high school, I did Youth for Christ preaching competitions and won first place. They put a medallion around my neck like Han Solo at the end of Star Wars. And they're all like, Jeff's going to be a great pastor. I'm like, what? This is just a way to miss a couple of days at school doing and it impressed all the parents of the cute girls. So like, you need to find a nice Christian boy like Jeff. I'm like, but anyway.
So what changed?
But here's what changed. When I started my own business.
What was the business?
An Amway distributorship, like a franchise.
Okay.
Selling energy drinks, vitamins, protein shakes, laundry detergent.
Okay.
But I didn't learn anything in high school or college about business ownership. I knew about communication, but really not much about people. Didn't know anything about leadership. And so this is before podcasts. This is before the internet. I needed a mentor. And so I started seeking out some mentors and just so happened to find some Christian men that were not playing the game. They weren't pretending. They weren't trying to impress anybody. It was what I felt was the first people I had ever really met that were making decisions based on, does this honor God or not? And they were out in the real world, taking their licks and their lumps and pros and cons and successes and failures. And these guys served me and they loved me. And we get together late at night at Country Time Diner, this little hole-in-the-wall greasy spoon in Cincinnati, and just talk about things that matter and about making a difference with your life and about what your purpose in your life is. I'm like, oh. And so that's when I really started, recommitted my life to Christ, and my wife did too. And so I'm a big advocate of entrepreneurism. I think it can change lives in a way that jobs just can't. What does it take to succeed as an employee? And what does it take to succeed as an entrepreneur? Completely different things. I mean, completely different things. Like difference. It's not even apples and oranges. It's apples and zebras. It's that if we had a class on how to succeed at a job, I could teach that in 10 minutes. We don't need a class. We could do, here's, if you get a job, and I'm not picking on people that have jobs, right? There's all kinds of amazing engineers and accountants and teachers, right? There's not a lot of self-employed teachers. That's hard to do, or dental hygienists or whatever. But if you have a job and you want to do well in that, here's all you need to know. Number one, work hard, be accountable. That's important. Number two, be a team player. Be a good teammate. Number 3, figure out what your boss wants and make your boss look good.
Boom.
That's key. That last one.
The end. That's how you get promoted. That's how you don't get fired. You add value to your boss. You want to be good as an entrepreneur? Much more difficult, I would argue. A much more diverse skill set. You want to be, depending on what kind of, what part of the marketplace you're in, you're going to be an entrepreneur. You got to be, you got to be good with business. You got to know a little bit about accounting. You got to know a little bit about finance. You got to know a lot about sales and marketing. You got to know about people. You got to know about psychology. You probably got to know a little bit about real estate. You got to know about strategy. You got to know how to analyze your competitors and differentiation. You have to be good at recruiting people, interviewing, building teams, mentoring. It's an incredibly diverse and difficult skill set that you got to develop. But I would argue infinitely more rewarding, because what you get over here at a job, generally, you know, I don't want to offend anyone who's listening to this who's like, well, it's not true, Micah. Generally speaking, I know this is true for me. I can speak for myself. When I had jobs, I always felt like a square peg in a round hole. So when I went to interview at the Campbell Soup Company, they had 28,000 people who worked there. And I was interviewing for one of those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It was a round hole and I was a square peg. And so what did I do? I go in the interview and I try to make myself look round. Stump my way into that job and then spend every day uncomfortable because that job is almost never a match for this person's God-given skills, abilities, interests, and passions. So that's why half of America says that they're unsatisfied at work. That's why Christian business people sit at work and say they lay in bed at night and look at the ceiling fan. They're like, there's got to be more to life than this. Because they've got railroaded by the education system into getting a job with a big company. They get up and they go to work and they come home and they watch TV and they go to bed and they get up and they go to work and they come home and they watch TV and they get up and they go home and they go to church. Then they go to bed and watch TV and they're like hamsters on a wheel, running. You ever see a hamster on the wheel when they're running? You know, sometimes they grab the wheel and whee, they got to figure out,
Yeah.
that's your 2 weeks vacation. Whee, back to work, run. And I was doing that and like, I want, you know, and so I own 2 companies. I still own an Amway business, but I started a speaking and training company on the side. And I tell people all the time, that's how I recommend most people. I believe that most people should have a business of their own. They really should. I think it's so easy to do in the modern world with the technology that's available. It's never been easier to have a business. I'll tell you something that's changed in my lifetime. It used to be frowned upon to be a corporate executive and have a part-time side hustle. When I was teaching, it wasn't even allowed. I had to secretly do it behind everyone's back. You had to get permission from the provost.
Wow.
Because if you have spare time, you should be investing in your job. If you worked at a big company and you had something on the side, like, oh, you're not, you should be focusing that energy on the company. Well, now today everyone's got real estate investments or whatever, or some kind of side hustle. But that's what I did when I was at Campbell, spent 10 years there and I started doing some speaking on the side, started building up some clientele, started putting myself in a position that I could be totally self-employed, that I could be in control. I decide who I work with, where I work. That took me a while to get here, but it's, I'm a strong advocate for people developing that strategy. The analogy that pops in my mind, I met an old, I got some guns and I like to shoot guns and sporting clays. And I met a crusty old veteran. What kind of guns you got? And I said, I got a Kimber, 45 pistol. I got a Smith & Wesson. I got a Mossberg shotgun. I got a Beretta shotgun. He goes, what kind of rifle you got? I actually don't have a rifle. He goes, you know what a handgun's good for? If it really hits the fan? I go, no. He goes, the only thing a handgun's good for is fighting your way to a rifle. Use that handgun, shoot somebody who's got a rifle and take it.
Dang.
This is some real world box right here that I didn't learn in school.
Forest Field veteran.
But my analogy to that, hey, what good is a job? Use that to fund your way, learn some lessons, get some experience.
There's that quote.
So it can be in business for yourself.
What's that quote? from
You tell me this every time. I have so many quotes. You did.
no. It's
That's why I pulled up here.
your 9 to 5 fund.
Your 9 to 5 is there to fund your 5 to 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a billionaire. I'm not, but I work for myself. I run a company. I run Jeff Joyner Training. I do speaking and training at conferences and for organizations, companies. Really kind of focus on the people side of the business world, and so it's selling skills,
mindset,
right?
Mindset. So what is
how to have less stress, how to be a happier person.
What is the mindset? Because we were talking about this off camera, and you said that's one of the biggest things that entrepreneurs need to understand is the mindset behind it. And I think it's something that's been on my mind because it's not always a glamorous story, right? There's often a struggle, a period of time where people don't even know that you're starting a business. You're working late nights. You're trying to make it work. It's stressful. What is the mindset to get to that point of like pushing through to the end, believing in your goal, getting to that point? And then also, if you could tie that into from a Christian perspective, because at some point we can get so self-centered that we forget why we're actually doing it at all.
Right. Good question. And, we were talking before the camera started rolling. One of the things that rankles me being around a lot of, Christian circles is the hand-wringing about, is entrepreneurship okay biblically? Which I find to be the dumbest question, because entrepreneurship is the only business model that's in the Bible at all. Look at the New Testament. Everybody in the Bible was either a slave or you draw what metaphorical conclusions you want, but they were either a slave owned by somebody else all day being told what to do and where to go, or they were entrepreneurs. They were fishermen and carpenters and blacksmiths and doctors. And even, if I were to ask you who's the most effective, most famous missionary of all time, you would say
Jesus.
No, Jesus was the most famous teacher, and he was our Lord and Savior. But after he came and went, somebody Paul went around the whole world at the time. Most of the New Testament, he wrote that. Pretty impactful. What was Paul's profession, though? What was his occupation?
Tents.
He's a tent maker. He owned his own business, making tents. And he would make tents, sell them for profit, use that. All right, got enough money? We're going to Ephesus. We're going to Thessalonica. We're going to Corinth. And he wasn't asking people to give them donation. We were talking about this off camera that I've had hundreds and hundreds of aspiring missionaries ask me if I will support them. I'm going on a missionary trip to Bangladesh. Will you support me? Yeah, I would love to support you. Let's get together. I'll teach you how to run and own a business of your own, create profit, fund yourself to go to Bangladesh. And whoa. That's not what I want. I've offered that to hundreds of people. I've got 0 people take me up on it. What they really want is someone to pay their bills. And ideally on a monthly commitment, where I don't see anything biblical about that whatsoever, that you would commit every month to send certain money to somebody to pay their cable bill when they move to wherever. And so I'm a fierce advocate. I think entrepreneurism is, and I think it's super aligned, and I feel like I'm circling around your question here, but your question is about the mindset. What's the mindset of success as a business owner? And I do a lot of sales training. I think sales is business ownership light. It's the closest thing you can have to business ownership without the risk and reward of business ownership. But there's some crossover in terms of the skill set.
So I want to dive into that, because you went from being a successful salesperson and then you started your own business. What made you decide to leave that point of, you could basically count on having, from the math of what you've earned over the past years, you could pretty much predict your income you could extrapolate it out. You had the skills down. Why did you leave that place of comfort to start your own business?
Great question. And I wish my answer was something more impressive than what it's going to be. I wish it was going to be, God spoke to me. I felt God's call. That's not what happened. I was pushed out of the nest. I worked for Campbell's for 10 years, was the top salesperson there, award-winning, made good money. Another small business came and wanted to recruit me away. And I'm like, why would I want to go work for you? And the guy said, what if I doubled your salary? I said, what day do I start? So I had young kids at home, stay-home wife, stay-home mom. So I spent 5 years working there. liked my boss, made really good money, worked from home. I was doing speaking and training for their clients and customers. I loved what I was doing. The days that I wasn't speaking, he's like, do whatever you want. And I really only worked a few days a month.
Wow.
Good 6-figure income. And then he sold the company. So you can see the roots of some of these things that I'm passionate about. What do you not have? What do you have as a business owner that you don't have as an employee? What's the main thing? Control. I worked for the owner. I wasn't the owner. So when he sold the company to another company and the new company said, why are we paying this guy so much money? I was out. And I saw it coming. They said, the new boss said, we're going to have a conference call on Friday morning at 9. And I'm like, uh-oh. And so I went to call into the conference call with my company cell phone. Doo-doo, your phone's been disconnected, I call.
There you go.
That's not a good sign. Sure enough, appreciate your years of service. We're going in another direction. You're out.
So you were able to, I mean, it makes sense, the transition from that point, because you had the skills already.
But it's a good God story though, too, because A, I had the skills. B, the speaking I had been doing for the last 5 years, I would say, hey, if anybody likes the training I do and you want to stay connected with me, fill out this piece of paper with your email address. And so when that happened, I had 8,000 emails of people that I knew liked what I did. So I had a starting point. So I'll take some credit for that. But so my wife, I got fired, had it on speakerphone. My wife and I listened to it. My wife graduated from here with an accounting degree and she's got a smart business mind. And I said, we talked about doing this for years. I'm just going to go on my own and be in business for myself. And we prayed right there and said, God, we are just going to trust you that you were going to send people to me that want to hire me to do speaking for them. Blind faith. It's the biggest leap of faith I've had in my life. And, okay, we're going to trust the Lord. 10 minutes later, my cell phone rings. Houston, Texas. I've never been to Houston, Texas. Answer it. Hey, Jeff, I'm such and such. I work for U.S. Foods Corporation. We got a branch in Houston. Heard you speak at a conference. Thought you'd be great for our team. Are you available on August 15th? I sure am. He goes, what would you charge to do that? I go, $5,000? He goes, that sounds great. I hang up the phone. And God has to hit me with this stuff real obvious, so I don't take the credit for it. I'm like, that's unbelievable confirmation to me. But when you're business for yourself, you unleash the power of, and that gets the answer to your question about the mindset is adding value. To the degree that you can add value to other people's lives determines how much money you make. Really two variables that I think. And again, I ruffle feathers sometimes by talking about this, but what determines how much money someone makes in a free enterprise economy? Two things. How many people can do what you can do? And how many people benefit from what you can do? All you're good at is flipping burgers. Well, guess what? Anyone can do that. That doesn't pay anything. If you're the best babysitter in the world, you're only going to make so much money because that benefits one family at a time. Right? But if you can develop skills that are of value to people and then go out there with a spirit of giving, and that's really what I try to do. And I haven't perfected it by any means, but just everyone I meet, how can I add value to their life? So you said, hey, I'd like to have you to podcast. You want to drive 2 hours and do a free podcast? Yeah. Because I know adding value to your life, there's, the worldly benefit is that'll come back to me somehow. And maybe someone buys my book and that leads to who knows what. Right. When you're giving to someone, when you're trying to help them, when you're delivering value, what are you really doing? You're showing love. How do you overcome fear? Jesus was very clear. How do you cast out fear? Love. Perfect love casts out fear. So you want to have less fear? Go show some love to people. Go give yourself away. And I found doing that as an entrepreneur is a lot easier than when I was an employee, just trying to not get fired. Best entrepreneurs I know. And I'm not, I don't know, maybe, I don't know a lot of billionaires, but the people that I know that are winning in business and in life, that care about people, this perception that people have that business people are a bunch of evil, dirtbags. I don't see that. Those people burn out real quick. They don't last in business. They might last in corporate America to a degree, but people in business for themselves, if you're not, I do a lot of work with restaurant owners. I've spoke at the North American Pizza and Ice Cream Show. It's all these independent pizza shops just trying to stay in business. And I got talking to one of them. I go, what's the most stressful part about owning a business? And he said, he points at the front door and he goes, if 1,000 people don't come through that door every month, I lose everything. And I was like, dang. He goes, that's what it takes to break in, to break even. 1,000 people coming through that door eating a meal here. If it's more than that, maybe my kids will go to college. If it's less than that, I lose everything. And I was thinking, sheesh. So you know what that guy has to learn really quick? That it's about people. It's not about burgers and shakes and coupons, and it's about people. And how can I connect with these people in a way that it's about hospitality more than service? You know, I meet people all the time that like, oh, the Christian life is miserable. It's, oh, this world is not our home, just a passing through. I'm just, I'm going to suffer, suffering. And I'm like, I don't know. I think serving people's very exciting. I think it's very happy. I think if anyone should be winning in the business world, it's someone who's got the Holy Spirit inside of them, is guiding them and giving them direction. For goodness sakes, how are we not the most successful people in every single endeavor? It's because people, I think maybe some people don't feel that they should.
But that's precisely what we're trying to encourage people here.
You guys,
Entrepreneurs is look, provide value to people. I mean, love people like God calls us to.
And so my faith has given me consistency and lowered my stress. Now you talk about marketing what people want. What's the first thing Jesus ever offered somebody when he started their ministry? He's offered to make them, Peter,
Fishers of men.
fishers of men. I'm not big into fishing. You guys love fishing?
I love fishing.
I think
If we're going to disagree on at least one thing,
I think fishing is the most stupid thing. I think if you go fishing, even if everything goes perfect, what you've accomplished is you've tricked a fish. I think it should be called fish tricking.
Well, that's what like catching, not catching.
Right. We went fish tricking. We tricked free fish. Suckers. But the little bit I do know about fishing, and tell me if I'm right, if you just take a hook, throw it in the water, what's missing?
the bait.
The bait. So that's how I prefer to share my faith with people, is with a little bit of bait. Let me tell you how my faith, my relationship with Jesus Christ has helped me have less stress. And the people in the audience who have a lot of stress are like, what? Let me tell you how I used to worry a lot, and now I have peace. I ruffle feathers when I asked somebody who was a theology professor here, what do you think's the best strategy for leading people to Jesus? And he said, invite them to church. I said, I disagree. I think the world has been invited to church. They're not coming. The world has heard the Jesus story. They're not interested. But most of them have never heard about Jesus from someone who served them first, someone who they respected, someone who had accomplished some things in life. And so that's what I think as a Christian entrepreneur, that you get out there and you serve people and you deliver value and you grow your business. So I'm telling you, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, is just go out and try to help as many people. And, and I hope I don't come across cocky when I'm talking about that, but I don't. That's the thing. When I was at the Impact Conference, there's some very humble people that were speaking at, it's amazing people. And no one's ever said, Jeff, you're really super humble. Maybe that's what I need to work on, I will admit. But I don't think humility is thinking less of yourself. I think humility is thinking of yourself less.
Y'all, this is Kingdom Kommerce, where we do commerce the kingdom way. Jeff, you're the man. We'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.
Enjoyed it.
All right, we wrapped up with these guys doing a fun podcast. We're going to go play some pickleball. What did you guys think? Was that a little different than most of your podcasts?
A little bit.
Fantastic.
It was good. It was awesome.
Juicy moments in there.
Some juicy moments for sure. All right, so these guys have challenged me to some pickleball. We can't play outside because it's snowing. We just had the first ever game of pickleball that was 1 against 3. You guys tell everybody how it went.
I put up a good fight. They let me down.
It was 11-0.
11-0.
11-0 all day.
He's good.
All right.
Don't let him fool you.